probably won't mention his name outside of in the introduction this morning until next week, because what do you get when you get a double-dealing daddy and a mama who was spoiled to death and was never told no? Well, eventually you get a Joseph, the son of promise. But before that, you also get 10 half-brothers. Joseph had a mother, 3 stepmothers, a father, and 10 half-brothers and a half-sister that hated him the moment he was born. So we're going to look at the me that I am today, the you that you are today, the me I don't want to be that I sometimes am, and the me that God is designing you to be. And in order to do that, we're calling this Don't Look Back, You're Not Going That Direction, or How to Make Peace with Your Past. Now, we won't get that all solved today, because all of us have things that are back there that we wish were not. All of us are carrying things that we shouldn't have to carry. When we finished this trip this past week, midnight plane problems and all that, finally got back into Fort Smith around 2:30 in the morning, but every time we would stop, I would say, we will never do this again. And it wasn't the trip. It was when we got off get ready to get off the ship, they put scales on every deck so that you can weigh your bags. Well, apparently we gained a bunch of weight. The scale said hers was like 55 pounds and mine was 56, 57 pounds, and the airlines won't charge you $100 for all that overage. So we put it all in my backpack. And so I was carrying that, plus the 2 suitcases, plus she had two bags herself. And we were just carrying way too much stuff. When we actually got to the airport, though, we weighed her bag. It was 37 pounds, and mine was 35 pounds. That's how off the ship was on their weight. So I carried a lot of weight for absolutely nothing. I was down to giving, I had dirty clothes in my backpack. I was down to throwing away clothes and giving away any trinkets that anybody wanted in the airport, because of all the baggage I was carrying. And we do this. We do it all the time. We are carrying stuff we have no business of toting anymore. And the reason that we do that is because we're afraid that if anybody else sees what all we're carrying, that we look back. So there's a me that I am. There is a me that I don't want to be. And I see a me that I don't want to be a lot of times. I get tired of me, don't you? Well, not me. You hope you get tired of you. And there is the you that God is desiring for you in your life. So we're going to get started with that in Genesis 27 and 28. But before we do, and of course, Pastor's already mentioned Friday night. Listen, the Mark Trammell Quartet, Mark sang with the Cathedrals, the greatest quartet ever known to man for like 20 years. They'll be here on Friday night. Great groups on Saturday. And my favorite, United Voice, will be here both nights, of course. So 6 o'clock on Friday, 5 o'clock on Saturday. Going to be a great, great time. I see back here, he rolled in his wheelchair that hadn't been here in a long, long time. A guy went in for a one-day surgery, in and out surgery, and about 14 weeks later, he gets out of rehab. Barry Jackson and Miss Julie, you're going to stand up. Just give them a big wave back there. They haven't been here in a long time because of what all he's gone through and what all she's gone through, going through with him. And that's where we're actually talking about today. When Nelson Mandela, the president of South Africa, was arrested when apartheid became a part of South Africa, for 27 years that man was in prison. And did you know that when they brought him into the prison, they wanted to shame him, so they put him in shorts. He never had a pair of long pants. They wanted him to be seen as a boy, not as a man. For 27 years, they wouldn't even let him wear any long pants at all. And you can read so much about him, but the thing that caught me that is appropriate for what we're talking about is the reporter kept attempting to hear all of the bad things he was put through. And all he would say is, I suffered, I learned, I grew. By the end of 27 years in that prison, and it wasn't a nice place to be, the last official guard that was dutied to be with him all the time and to watch him, he would make him gourmet meals and bring them to him. And when Nelson Mandela would speak, there would be 30 to 50 guards and prisoners just around listening to him. He became like an Apostle Paul in his prison, I don't know if he's a Christian or not. I have no idea. I just know that he said, I suffered, I learned, I grew. And that is God's calling on every one of us. If I ask you this morning, have you suffered? Are you suffering? Of course the answer is yes, I have suffered, or I'm suffering now. And if neither of those, then it's coming. I promise you that. But we're going to look at this unique life. Stop looking back because you're not going that way. There was a man on a 2-lane state highway in Texas, and I read this little clip here a while back, and he was so worried about the guy following him so close that he began to literally drive out the rearview mirror. And you know that mirror is very small, right? There's a reason for that. It's because it's back there. The windshield is very large so that your visage is where it should be. He became so obsessed with that guy following him too close, guess what? Yeah. He rammed the guy in front of him and caused 17 cars by the time it was over with that were involved in a wreck looking backwards. The only thing he gave to the officer was, the guy behind me was following too close. That was his reason for wrecking 17 different vehicles looking backwards. And all of us have a thing that we look at backwards at and say, thank God that's over. Thank God we're no longer going through that. Thank God I'm not tempted in that in any way. But how do I make peace with that? How do I make peace with my past? Because we're going to have to look back at Abraham, and that's what we're doing on Wednesday night, Abraham and Isaac and Esau, Jacob, all these guys. Abraham in Genesis chapter 12 is running toward his future because God says to him, get out of this country, get away from your family. And his father was a pagan. His grandfather was part of the Nimrod in chapter 11. They worshiped the moon. They worshiped the sun. His daddy, Terah, actually sold idols. Joshua says that Terah was a seller of the idols. And so God says, I can't use you like this. Get out of this country, get away from your family to a land that I will show you. So he takes off running toward a promise, not knowing everything where he's headed, not knowing why he's going there, outside of a promise, and to a land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will give to you children. Now the guy's 75 years old at this point. It took him 25 years of running toward the promise of God before that was fulfilled. And then along comes his son Jacob. Jacob is continually seen running from his past. Everywhere Jacob goes, he's looking behind him. The reason he's looking behind him is because everyone he did business with, he Jewed them out of it. He rooked them. He took advantage of them. His very name means deceiver, the trickster. This guy was a piece of work. And yet God blessed him. God kept him in that promise. But Jacob is seen running from his past everywhere he's going. And then we see Esau running toward his demise. Esau is a guy who was the twin brother, the oldest twin of he and Jacob. He was born first. He was born red and hairy. And being the firstborn, there was the B&B that he was to receive. First, the blessing, and second, the birthright, the B&B, the firstborn. When he was born, Jacob, not born yet, grabbed his heel. I'm hanging on to you. And he never let go. Now they're grown men, and Esau is running toward his demise. Everything that he saw that his father wanted, why did he marry the daughter of Ishmael? He was trying to please his daddy. He would look at his mama, who loved her son, who was a homeboy, kind of a sissy boy, mama boy, stayed at home. And he was the hairy outdoorsman, a great hunter with a bow. Daddy loved him because he brought all the stuff. So we have this division of who loves whom. But Esau was running toward his demise because he took way too careless the things that he should have taken seriously. There's this story that all of you know from Sunday school. He comes in from hunting. Mama, Rebecca, says to her son, Jacob, hey, this is an opportunity for you. This is a real opportunity for you to take that blessing. And you know the story. He dressed up, put goat's hair on his skins and elbows, and Daddy Isaac is already blind. So he smelled like his brother, and so he gave him the blessing. We know that story. But the end of that is Esau spent the rest of his life being fueled and and even driven by anger for what he'd lost. There needed to be a new me developed in Esau. And I don't know what you're mad about today. I thank God 248 years of this flag. We've gone from 13 colonies with basically 2 million people to 50 states, 14 different territories, 330 million people, the largest health facilities in the world, the largest benevolency going on in the world comes from this country. Literally the entire world hangs on what the Americans do and how we do it. And whether or not we're going to have the blessings of God or the curse of God on our life, it just seems like we're hanging in the balance. But one thing I do know, and people ask literally every day, is this the end? Is this where we're going to be? Is this the way we're going to end? I have no idea. I do know that we are called as the body of Christ to be faithful to Him, to preach the gospel, to baptize, and to make disciples all over the world. He hasn't changed His mind, hasn't given us any other plans to do, so we're going to keep doing the very thing that He said to do until He comes. As Marty says, when He starts down, we'll start up. And until then, we're going to be happy and joyful in the jobs that He has given us. But how do I make peace with all this? So those are the characters. Now let me tell you this. The only time that really matters is present time. Present time. Why? Because future time is only in your imagination. Past is only in your memory. None of it matters now. Future doesn't matter. That's in your imagination. The only thing that really matters is right now. Present tense. The Apostle Paul gives us both the solution and the problem when he said in Philippians 3, you know what, brethren? I don't count myself to have apprehended or gotten there, but one thing I do. Now catch this, what he says. This one thing I do. I forget those things which are behind. Wow. Paul, could I ask you one question? How in the world did you do that? How do you forget those things which are behind? You ever lie to anybody in the past, cheat anybody in the past, say something you shouldn't have, acted out the way you shouldn't have, and it comes up to you just like in the memory bank of your mind. There it is, and you want to put it down, you want to put it away. All the things you did or did not do, you should have done, or the way you acted out or should not have acted and did, or defrauded, stole, whatever all these things are, they pop up. And Paul says, this one thing I do, brethren, I'm not there all the way, but I forget those things which are behind me. Now, this is a guy who persecuted Christians. This is a guy who put Christians to death. This is the guy who would hold the coats of those who were going to throw the stones so that they could kill people for saying, I love Jesus Christ, He is my Lord and Savior. Paul would come to your area and he'd put you to death if he could. He imprisoned families. And yet he can say, one thing I do is forgetting those things which are behind me, and the word is stretch, and I stretch forward. I stretch this way forward. So in order to make peace with our past, in order to say, look, I'm not going this way anymore, I'm going this way, how do we do that? How do we get past it? How are we able to say, you know what, I've made peace with that past? Every one of us have certain portions of our past that we really want blacked out. We want it like the documents that the FBI that redacted, they're called. The redaction is simply taking a black magic marker and wiping anything that has anything of importance, marking it out and handing it to you saying, that's what we're going to let you know, A and D. But we can't redact it. Why does God allow that? Why does God? Because it's a constant reminder to you that He is in charge of the future. And to have the mind of Christ means I surrender those. I surrender those to Him. And it's a daily deal. You got to do this every day. If you're going to make peace with your past, you won't find an easy little way to do this. But we are going to develop some ideas from the life of Joseph. And so we get in chapter 27. If you look there with me in verse 41. So Esau hated Joseph, hated Jacob. Esau hated Jacob, that's his twin brother, because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. Now what is the blessing? The blessing is not receiving the inheritance. The blessing is this. The blessing is a pronouncement of prophecy of who you are as firstborn. It's publicly declaring the blessing or the advantage of the firstborn, and it's said by the father, and it has to be said by the father. It's a pronouncement, it's a prophecy. So Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him, and Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Dad's dead. Then I will kill my brother. I want to talk first about the blind eye. The blind eye. The blind eye is he is blinded by everything except one thing. I will kill my brother Jacob. Verse 42. And the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, surely your brother Esau comforts himself concerning you by intending to kill you. There's the eye again. The blind eye. I am going to kill you. Now you imagine a brother relationship by which the oldest twin says to the younger twin, I'm going to kill you. I intend to kill you. He is fueled by this. He is driven by this. The blind eye. Listen, if you're guided or led by revenge or what has happened to you, what someone took advantage of you about, and this thing is going so viral today because Robert Morris, the pastor of the great church in Dallas, more than 50,000 people in 7 different campuses, he walked away from his pulpit because of something that happened years ago in which it was very bad. He confessed it, got help. But in the culture that we live in, once they found out about it, that's not good enough. And so he's had to leave that ministry. Every one of us have these things in our past that we're afraid of someone else. Now, we may not have violating or sexually abusing a minor in our past, but we have a past. But the church has decided, particularly with him, or even the month before that, with the great pastor Tony Evans in Dallas, Oak Cliff Bible Church, a great church, a great pastor. His wife died 4 years ago. He had to leave his pulpit last month because of inappropriate relationships. What's going on in this country that we see it more and more and more and more? And how can we be fueled by the very thing that makes a very bad me? See, if you're happy with the me that you are today, and you're looking at that and you're seeing that God is fulfilling you and that there's joy in your soul, or you may be looking at the me that you're just really tired of, always whining, always complaining. And this past week we didn't cook a meal. There were meals provided for us. It was given in the gift that we had. We never paid for a meal. We walked around, and by the second or third day, there were 4 different buffets going on. You can pick anything in the world you want, anything from broiled snails all the way to pan-seared sea bass or whatever it is that you want. Ham sandwiches, that's no problem. Prime rib, no problem. Then you could go up a deck and dress up a little fancier and get something even better. Then if you're willing to pay for it, you go up on the upper deck and you could really get a fine meal. What I'm saying is, by about day 2 or 3, I started getting pretty picky about what was out there. Did you know if everything is given to you, everything that you want every day of your life, you know what you'll become by about day 3? I don't know. I walked around all 4 buffets with an empty plate trying to make up I don't know. Way too many options. When I was growing up, and my grandma was living with her until she died just a few years after of cancer. And so when you sat down at her table, and she wasn't, Granddad was a treasure. Grandma, she just wasn't the easiest to get along with in the world. But you didn't dare say you didn't like something. And she was the one who. She poured the spoons. She determined the rations and all that. And, poke salad. I hate poke salad. Amen. I love turnip greens. Now, don't get me wrong. Turnip greens, collard greens, I'm all about it. But I hate the smell of poke salad. And boy, she'd put that and plop her down. And There were things like that, but most of the time, but there were no options. You're going to eat. If it's on there, you eat it, or you get up and you're not getting anything else. I'm just saying, we're really getting that way in this country. We have so much at us. We're so melted down with options and things that we could have that we're spoiled. We're spoiled to death, and nothing satisfies us now because we have so much. And so he says, this blind eye, I'm looking at one thing. I'm going to look at how to get even. I'm looking at how I can even the score. That's a blind eye. In other words, I see absolutely nothing but the one thing. So the B he is lost. The other B is the birthright. It wasn't just the blessing, the prophesying of the Father saying, you are the firstborn and you get this, because the firstborn was going to get 2/3 of whatever the family had. He also had the responsibility of taking care of the family, and the rest 1/3. But it wasn't just the blessing, it was the birthright itself, which was the legal declaration of saying, you are no longer the firstborn son. And that came about from the pot of soup. The word red cabbage, or Edom, is where we get the word Edom. And the red man says, hey, give me some of that soup. And Jacob, because Mama's already put in the ear, here's an opportunity for you. I'll give you the soup if you sell me your birthright. And this is why both boys are so wrong. How could a guy be so hungry that he would throw away that which God has provided and given to him in order to get something temporarily that's only going to give a moment or two of support? So he was wrong in that he took very careless the things that were very sacred. And he actually says to his brother, what good's a birthright to me? I'm dying. And that's kind of how we are. If we all stood at these doors every Sunday morning and we all asked each other how we're feeling, and if we all actually told how we were feeling, we would never get past the front doors. We would all still be standing there waiting for the other guy to quit complaining about how they feel so I can get started on how I feel. Do you ever try to tell somebody what's going on with you and they stop you in the middle? Oh, yeah, I had that. Oh, yeah, I had that. No, it was a lot worse than you had. And so we all have that. And he says, hey, what's a birthright to me? I'm dying. Just give me the red stew. And so this blind eye cannot see anything but getting even. Cannot see anything but I am living for this, to see you dead. Listen, you can't have a blind eye. When you have a blind eye, you lose all the blessings that God has surrounded you with. Everything that He has blessed us with. And in this nation, the July 4th weekend, I know it's get on the lake, water ski, fishing, whatever, picnicking, and all the things that we do. But the great reminder of the price of freedom that was paid so that we are free. We're still the freest people on the earth. And I know you're saying, but we're losing it. Yes, we are. But we're still the freest people on the face of the planet. And God has given us so much. He's blessed us so much. What a Sunday morning ought to be every Sunday is, whoa, God has blessed me this week. If He has allowed you to get up, you woke up this morning, that means you're not dead. That means if you're not dead, you're alive. So act it. Don't die before you're dead. If He has given you grace and mercy in order to sit up and take a meal, in order to navigate the day and all that the day is going to bring, don't get a blind eye. Don't get so obsessed with what has happened to you that you lose sight of what is happening to you, because then you become the me you don't want to be. And I don't want to be a grumpy old man, do you? You don't want to be a grumpy old person. You don't want to be a grumpy young person. Grumpy young people are worse than grumpy old people. When you get a blind eye, and we saw this, they ask you, will you mind sitting with other people? And if you say no, it doesn't matter because they're going to sit you right there. There was this family really close to us, and there was like 8 of them. And they looked, most of them from Japan. Anyway, this little fellow, he comes, he sits down, he's pouting. He doesn't want anything they have. The waiter tries to please him. He brings him a special drink with pineapple and cherry on top. Kid pushes it back because he didn't want to eat there. He wanted to eat somewhere else. Pushes it back. And so the grandma and grandpa console him and attempting to make him feel better. And then mama, she, feel better. Of course, he's loving it. He's loving that. He's got all the attention. And so the lip just gets bigger. And then I love what happened. Daddy gets up, pulls out, sets the napkin down, walks over there and said, come with me. Now we're getting somewhere. come with me. How many of us need to stop right now and go with the Holy Father and say, come with me for just a minute? You've got yourself a little attitude. It's not going right. And you got a blind eye. I don't see anything but the thing that I said that should be done. I don't see anything but the thing that I wanted done. I don't see anything but the thing that should have happened to me. Well, that's a blind eye. In verse 42, the words of Esau, the intent. Living with the intent, the big eye, the blind eye, the intent. All of my today's actions are still schemed in order that it falls into the big intent, which is, I'm going to kill you. Now we go to chapter 28. We'll have to scoot over, but don't worry. Next Sunday, behind the scenes after the service, we're going to give you all the fill-in of what happens. Jacob, chapter 28 and verse 10. Now Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. You got to remember, he's running. He's running. So he came to a certain place and stayed there all night because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he lay down on that place to sleep. Then he dreamed. And behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and it on the top reached to heaven, and there were angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Jacob, Isaac, and the land on which you lie I will give to you and your descendants. Also your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad from the west to the east, the north, the south, and in your seed all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Behold, I am with you. I will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. Jacob's blessed in. He says, verse 16, Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place. Jacob's in. Surely the Lord is in this place. Now, the dream is this, and if you Google it, Google Jacob's ladder dream. You'll get everything from reincarnation to angels, everything. But here's the story. God is communicating to you, Jacob. The ladder starts here. It reaches him. Angels are called, the word for angel in the Greek is euangelios, which means the messenger. Your messengers are going down, messengers are coming up. We're communicating. I am telling you, this is a blessed in, I-N. This is a blessed in. So he wakes up from the dream, and he doesn't know quite what's reality and what. Wait a minute. I've been asleep. Surely the Lord is in this place. You know what? Today, while we look at an Esau who was living and fueled and driven by a blind eye, Jacob realizes for the first time he is in a blessed inn, a place where God is. This is why church is so important. And this is why we're losing it in this culture. And this is why if families in America do not change their mind about the importance of church, we're one generation away from literally losing our influence as a church in America. Because if your generation decides it's not important, I promise you the next generation will just walk away. What one generation excuses in moderation, the next will excuse in excess. And it's happening. We're seeing it in front of us right now. And so, Jacob, I'm in an in place. The presence of God is in me. The presence of God is in this place. The place I've been running, and yet I'm in his place. And you've got to get that down in your life today. Where I am. And take the house that you're in, the car that you're driving, the clothes that you have, the family that you are part of. This is the inn for you. This is the God's blessing place for you. You don't have to be in a church to get blessed. You just have to realize that you are in his presence. And listen, how to make peace with your past is that you have to first begin to understand that the me you don't want to be is continually in the rear view trying to catch up to you. Making sure that you get back. There's a little bitty house 7 miles southeast of Roseville, Arkansas that I lived as a small boy. And I've only been back there once or twice to take pictures of it. And I would set, now it's just full of hay and it's no longer. And you just went on, look at that. I said, how in the world did 6 of us live in this little 950 square foot home? How in the world do we do it? How in the world do we grow up like that? I mean, when I look at this thing, and how could we have had so much fun, so much family? How in the world could we have made it successfully through this mess when we look at our past? So when we look at our past, it's supposed to be a short trip and a look at the picture and move forward. But when you continually look back at the thing that's trying to catch you, and it does catch you, that's where depression sets in, where anxiety sets in. When you're realizing your loss every day, literally every day on my phone, I'm saying, I'm sorry you have to experience this right now. And I mean that with all my heart. I'm sorry that you are having experienced this. But do not turn around to that thing which is behind you and say, okay, I'll just live here. I don't care what you're facing, what disease, what condition you're in, what the medical report says, or even what your mind is saying to sit down and quit. Just sit down and quit. That's from Satan himself. Did you ever notice that Satan never says, I want to be your God? He didn't do it to Adam and Eve the first time he made a presentation in the Bible. When he made his first appearance, he didn't say, come follow me. No, what did he say? Follow yourself. Be your own guy. Be your own gal. You don't have to worry about eating of the tree of life or whatever. You can do it yourself. So the me that I don't want to be becomes the me that I sometimes am because I continue to look back and that me is catching up. But the me that God wants me to be is found when I don't turn a blind eye and become obsessed with the bad. That I understand that the blessing in is wherever I am, God's presence is with me. That's why the psalmist said in 23, he wasn't dying at that moment. He just realized, for the Lord is my shepherd, I shall want. I don't want any other. He makes me lie down in green pastures, whether I want to or not. All of the things that God is providing for you that we read at every death, He's providing for you now in our life. You don't need to worry about your death. Worry about your life. And so, this blessed in the food that you eat. And the reason that we bless the food is not so that we'll have enough. The reason we bless the food is to stop and say, Father, you own it all. You own it all. Thank you for this. Now, if our prayer was, Father, I tilled the land, I raised the crop, I killed the calf, I gutted it, I dried it, I smoked it, I fished, whatever, and I did it all myself, that's not much of a prayer of acknowledgement to God. Because He allows us to do these things. So that's just a moment of saying, Father, thank you. Father, thank you. Father, thank you. And that helps the old me from catching up to the new me. So he says, you know what? Verse 17, he was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. And that's where Bethel, the house or the gate of God. He took the rock, which was his pillow, which seems strange to me, but he used the rock all night. And then he turned around, put the stone, poured oil over it, and said, this is Bethel. This is the house of God. This is the presence of God. I don't know what's in your house that doesn't need to be there anymore, but the presence of God. And that's why people say all the time, well, our nation will get back. I don't know. Is there a compromise? I'm telling you, we live in a nation where 1,700 babies are killed every day, where we spend millions and millions of dollars every year on killing babies. There is no compromise with light and darkness, my friend. There'll never be. Light and dark cannot coexist together. Good and evil cannot coexist together. And that's why we're on such the horns of a dilemma in our nation, is that evil is reigning. And I'm not talking about Republicans and Democrats. I'm talking about good and evil. I'm talking about right and wrong that we do not see on so many levels. And so we are in the presence of God, not because this is the church, but because His presence is here. In His presence is fullness of joy. Every crisis, every condition, everything going wrong, wait a minute, I am in this place. You know, 75% of your immune system is from right here to right here. Did you know that? 75% of what makes you healthy is right here. Jesus said it like this. He said, you know, he who comes to me and believes, out of him or her shall flow rivers of water. Rivers was mentioned more than 150 times in the Bible. The very first chapter of the Bible, God creates a river. The very last chapter, chapter 22 of Revelation, He creates another river. So the first book and the last book, we begin with the river, we end with the river. And in that last river, have you ever seen that? In Revelation 22, and He showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. In the middle of a street, on either side of the river, was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit every month. There's a Fruit of the Month Club. The leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations. And there shall be no more curse. But the throne of God and the Lamb shall be in it, and His servants shall serve Him. Out of your river, see, it's not just to come to you. This river is to flow through you. That becomes the me He wants me to be. It's flowing rivers of living water. Rivers of living water. That's why all of a sudden, in the last 20 years, we hear about probiotics and prebiotics. That the gut changes everything. All of our immune system is right here. The deepest space in your body is right here. Thousands of miles spread out is inside of this body right here. And it should flow rivers of living water. Do you feel like a creek dried up and not giving anything out to anyone else? Because this river is not to come to me, it's to flow through me. Now come on, Jacob, you're in God's presence. He realizes this. And even though he's running for all of his life, he does recognize it. Now we get to verse 18. Then Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had on his head, set it up for the pillar, poured oil on top of it, and he called the name of that place Bethel. But the name of the place had been called Luz previously. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me, and keep me in the way that I am going, and give me the bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I come back to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. Jacob's big if, I-F. There's a big if here. Now he's just shown him His presence, has He not? He showed him in a dream. Here's the ladder. I'm communicating with you. We've got the angels up and down, moving up and down. You can hear my voice. I have promised I will be with you. And your children will be like the dust in the ground. Go up, take all the dust, throw it in the air. You can't count them. And in your name, all the earth will be blessed. And here is the response. Here's the big if for every one of us. The big if is this. Well, if number one, if He will be with me. If. Now, He's already said, the previous verse, I will be with you. What are you waiting on? He's already, Jacob, given you this promise. If number two, if He will keep me on the right path. If number three, if He will give me daily bread. If number four, if He will keep me in clothes that I need. If number five, if He gives me peace at home. And that's a lot of ifs, isn't it? The big if is understanding that the me that you are sometimes is the me you don't want to be, and the me that you need to become is who God is leading you to be. But in order to do that, you've got to trust Him from here to here. He's already said, I'll be with you. When you were saved, and I want you to just go back there. Can you see it in your mind? I'm 10 years old at a vacation Bible school at Roseville Baptist Church. Pastor is Johnny Darr. And Bible school is over, and he notices something going on. A little bitty country church, and he said, Bobby, you want to talk? Yes, sir. What's wrong? I don't know. We come through that, and at that time, all I knew was I'd done wrong. I didn't understand all the implications, but anyway, I gave my heart to Jesus Christ. And I was baptized in the Gaddis Lake the first time. It got all the scum off the lake, and the mud wasn't so deep. And I got baptized with about 15 other people at Gaddis Lake. So I go back to that in my mind. I mean, that's been like 30 years ago. Can you see yourself back there? Wait a minute. What happened now when you were saved? What happened when you were redeemed? What took place there? So His presence is with you. His presence is with you always. And that's why you want to know Why these guys left their pulpits because of things they'd done in their past. They forgot that God's presence was with them in the dark just as it is in the light. We forget sometimes that we're not deserving of anything. Some people begin, I have worked so hard, I deserve it. I've worked so hard, I deserve this. And I should be able to have this because of what all I've done. You don't deserve anything but hell. But God's grace and His mercy has given you more than you ever could imagine that you deserve. So you just remember this the next time that the lights are off and you're looking on that little mobile device and you're about to see something you should not see. God's presence is right there. If teenagers, if you're in doubt about something you're about to do, just say, Lord, will you bless and honor this right now in my life? Would this be something you'd bless and honor in my life? And if you already know the answer, then you're becoming the me I don't want to be rather than the me that He wants you to be. Jacob's great big if is, Lord, if you will be with me, and if you'll keep me enclosed, if you keep me on the path, if you'll give me peace at home, then you will be my God. That's a big if. Now then, we wrap it up this morning. Is He your God or not? Are you realizing that whatever situation you're in today is you are in His presence? Doesn't matter what you're going through, you are in His presence. Doesn't matter the pain, emotional, the scarring, the abuse from the past. And I hate to see this, but because there is a fog over America today about anxiety, depression, all of that we don't want to talk about. But it's there. It's a mental thing that needs help. I don't know if they still do. You nurses could tell me this, but there used to be a thing that was put on a baby's chart. If the baby wouldn't take food, wouldn't grow, and it was FTT. Now I wonder, what does that mean? FTT. It means failure to thrive. And so it would go on the chart. This is, and the doctor would, okay, failure to thrive. Not growing, not gaining weight, not growing, not learning, not growing to grow. You want to know what I think the greatest damage being done right now is not the depression, not the anxieties that we're in FTT, failure to thrive as a nation, failure to thrive as believers, failure to thrive with this rivers of living water that should be flowing through us is stopped up in us. And because of that, we become the me we don't want to be. Because of that, our past is catching up to us. Let's stand together. I asked you to go back in your mind just a moment ago to the place that you were saved, redeemed, born again, whatever you want to call it. Being saved. Redemption. Do you see it? Is it solid in your mind? Do you know that it happened? Are you sure? Are you sure? See, redemption doesn't just happen and then you walk on off and do the life you want to live. You belong to Him. And you become the me He wants you to be only if you keep moving toward His desire for you. That blind eye is dangerous, folks, because it focuses and loses all perspective. The blessed end is recognizing, whoa, we are in the presence of God. And it's not just because of beautiful singing or music or preaching or the Word. It's because we recognize as a family of God, we're all in this place. Years back when I was preaching on the West Coast, we went to see the redwoods and 2,000 years old, 350 feet tall, top-heavy monsters, and yet how they stood. One tree we looked at was over 1,500 years old. They stand because their roots are entangled 6 to 10 feet below the ground. That's the only reason the redwoods can stand. Locked arm in arm. And that's what I'm saying about this church in the future. We're going to face tough times. We're going to see things happen in this culture that you never dreamed could happen. We better stay together. Winds are going to blow. Locked arms, recognizing God's presence in us. Is there anybody that you don't like so much that you literally cannot stand to be around them? Don't indicate anything. Don't point. You know what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to get out of this me this me that you're tired of, and you're going to have to come to the me He wants you to be by somehow either apologizing or somehow walking away so that no longer the blind eye keeps you in the focus. And so, if you go back to that, is it there? Can you see your place? And I don't know if you remember the words. I don't remember anything that I said. I don't know what I said. But I've said it 150 times since then, Father, save me. And I know that He did at that point. But I know that I'm saved, not because of the me that I am. I am saved because of His mercy and His grace that was given to me. And that's the only way you can come. Our heads are bowed now. Our eyes are closed. Are you 100% sure that you know